He heard his dead grandfather say his mother's name, not in a dream, not in a memory, not through some ghost story whispered after midnight, from a cassette tape, a cracked, dust-covered cassette hidden under the attic floorboards for 30 years, and the first words on it were not a confession. They were worse. They were an apology. Sarah, one word, my mother's name, and when that voice came out of the old recorder, my mother dropped the coffee cup in her hand, like the dead had reached through the speaker and touched her wrist. But that happened later. First, there was the house. Rural Ohio. Late autumn, the kind of morning where the sky looked bruised and the fog sat low over the fields like it was hiding something. Brown leaves scraped across the porch. The wind pushed against the windows. Somewhere in the walls the old pipes knocked like a warning. Inside, our kitchen smelled like burnt toast, black coffee, and silence. That was our family's real scent. Silence. My mother, Sarah, stood at the sink with her back to me. She was 55, but the house had aged her harder than time had. Her robe was tied tight, her shoulders were stiff. Her silver hair glowed in the weak blue light coming through the window. She didn't turn around. She rarely did. "The attic needs clearing," she said. That was it. No good morning, no please, no softness. Just a sentence dropped between us like a locked door. I looked at her, waiting for more. There was never more. That was the rule in our house. You did not ask about the past. You did not ask why family photos disappeared from the hallway. You did not ask why my grandfather Henry's name made my mother's face go cold. And you never, ever asked why she checked the mailbox every day at noon, even when she knew nothing was coming. Before sundown, the house would finally speak. At breakfast, the grandfather clock ticked from the hallway. Tick, 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 like it was counting down to something. My fork scraped the plate too loudly. My mother drank coffee without looking at me. I used to think she didn't love me. Now I think love had been beaten so far down in our family that by the time it reached us, it only knew how to come out as instructions. Eat, work, drive safe, don't start. Then the back door burst open. Mabel Hargrove stepped in with a foil-covered casserole and the confidence of a woman who had survived 3 husbands, 1 tornado, and every church committee in Pike County. She was 72, tiny, loud, and impossible to ignore. "Sarah," she said, kicking mud off her boots, "this house is so quiet I can hear my own regrets." My mother closed her eyes. "Mabel." "Don't. Mabel me. I brought breakfast because grief and burnt toast are not a balanced meal." I almost smiled. Mabel looked at me and pointed toward the ceiling. "She's still making you clear the attic?" I nodded. Her expression changed for half a second. Just half, but I saw it. Fear. Then she covered it with a smile. "Well," she said, "be careful what you throw away. Some things look like junk until they start telling the truth." My mother's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. The room tightened. The clock ticked louder. I carried empty boxes up the narrow stairs. Each step groaned under my weight. The air changed as I climbed. Colder, older, dustier. The attic smelled like cedar, wet insulation, mouse nests, and secrets that had been left too long in the dark. A round window faced the fields. Pale light poured through it, catching dust in the air like tiny pieces of ash. Trunks lined the wall, old quilts, broken lamps, Christmas decorations. No one had touched since I was a child. And near the window, one floorboard sat slightly raised. I would have missed it. But the wind hit the house, the board lifted a little, and something underneath made a soft wooden knock. Not the house settling. Something hidden. I knelt. My fingers shook before I knew why. "Downstairs," my mother called. Leo? Her voice was sharp, too sharp, like she already knew where I was standing. I slid my hand over the loose board. The wood was cold, and underneath it something waited. Before sundown, the house would finally speak. The floorboard didn't want to move. It groaned when I wedged the screwdriver under its edge. Dust puffed into my face, bitter and dry. Outside, wind pushed dead branches against the roof, tap, tap, tapping like someone upstairs was answering me. Before sundown, the house would finally speak. I pulled harder. The board snapped loose. Underneath was a narrow black space, not empty, not forgotten, hidden. I reached in and touched wood, a box, small, heavy, wrapped in an old dish towel that smelled faintly of cedar, metal, and thyme. For a second, I almost put it back. That was the temptation in our family. Not rage, not cruelty, avoidance. The old identity had a voice, and it sounded exactly like my mother. Leave it alone. Don't start trouble. The past is past. Then Mabel shouted from the ladder, "You find treasure or just another reason to need therapy?" I coughed on dust. "A box." "Well, open it before I climb up and break a hip for drama." Inside were cassette tapes, dozens of them, some labelled by date, some blank, some yellowed at the edges. Beneath them sat an old battery recorder, its plastic scratched, its speaker full of dust. Then I saw the top tape. Written in shaky blue ink, "To my Sarah, for when the silence gets too loud." My chest tightened. The attic tilted. Sarah, not Mom. Sarah. The letters looked careful, like the writer had pressed too hard because his hand was trembling. I carried the box downstairs. Halfway down, I heard my mother in the kitchen. She was on the phone with Uncle Ray. Uncle Ray was Henry's younger brother. Same hard jaw, same hard rules. The kind of man who believed feelings were leaks you patched before neighbours noticed. Her voice was low. "No, Ray, I'm not going up there. Leo can throw it all away. Throw it all away." I froze on the stairs. Ray's voice crackled from the receiver. "Good, nothing good comes from digging. Your father was who he was. Let dead men stay dead." My fingers tightened around the box. There he was, the temptation villain, not a monster with a knife, a man with a sentence our family had obeyed for 30 years. Let dead men stay dead. Mabel appeared at the bottom of the stairs and saw my face. "What is it?" I showed her the tape. Her mouth softened. For once, she didn't joke. Then my mother walked in. She saw the box. The kitchen changed. The light went thin. The coffee smell turned sour. The clock sounded louder. "Put that back," she said. But the tape was already in my hand. My mother didn't yell. That would have been easier. She went still. So still the whole kitchen seemed to obey her. The pipes stopped ticking. The furnace paused. Even Mabel held her breath. "Leo," she said, "put it back." Her voice was calm, but her hand gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. I should have listened. That was the family script. Obey silence. Protect silence. Call it peace. Before sundown, the house would finally speak. "I just want to know what it is," I said. "You don't." Uncle Ray's voice barked from the phone still hanging in her hand. "Sarah, what's going on?" Mabel moved fast, faster than anyone her size had a right to. She plucked the phone from my mother's hand. "Raymond, go polish your bitterness." "We're busy." She hung up. My mother stared at her like betrayal had worn orthopedic shoes. Then chaos hit. A sharp crash came from the pantry. Mabel's casserole dish slid off the counter and shattered. Potatoes spread across the floor. My mother startled backward, slicked on gravy, and hit the chair hard. "Mom!" The room exploded into motion. The kitchen smelled like butter, broken ceramic dust, and panic. The clock kept clicking. Rain began tapping the window. Mabel cursed like a sailor at a church picnic. Sarah clutched her wrist. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her face had gone pale, and for the first time in my life I saw her not as a wall, but as a woman, fragile, aging, scared of needing help. I grabbed towels. Mabel swept glass with a magazine. The old dog from next door, Biscuit, who had followed Mabel in unnoticed, started licking mashed potatoes off the floor like he had been hired for clean-up. "Biscuit!" Mabel snapped. "Not the trauma potatoes!" My mother almost smiled. Almost. I wrapped her wrist with a dish towel. Her skin was cold. Lavender soap. Coffee breath. A faint tremor she tried to hide. "Let me help," I whispered. She looked away. "I don't know how." Those 4 words landed harder than any apology. I took the recorder from the box and set it on the table, not to force her, not yet, just to let it exist between us. The tape waited inside my palm. My mother stared at it. A tear gathered but didn't fall. "Your grandfather never said anything worth saving," she murmured. From somewhere deep in me, I answered, "Then why did he hide it for you?" The house seemed to lean in. I pressed play. The recorder clicked. Static hissed. Then a man's voice filled the kitchen. "Sarah." My mother stopped breathing. The voice was rough. Older than the man in the photos. Warmer than the stories. It came through static and tape hiss, wrapped in the tiny mechanical whine of a recorder that had slept under floorboards for 30 years. "Sarah, if you're hearing this, it means I ran out of courage while I still had time." My mother's lips parted. The kitchen smelled like rain on wool, spilled coffee and cooling potatoes. Grey light slid over the table. Biscuit stopped licking the floor. Even the dog understood. Before sundown, the house would finally speak. Henry's voice cracked. "I watched you walk to the mailbox today. You were 13. You had that blue coat. You were waiting for a letter from me. I had it in my hand." My mother made a sound, not a sob, a wound opening. "I was 10, she whispered. The tape continued. "I wanted to say I was proud of you. I wanted to say the school picture was beautiful. I wanted to say I kept it in my Bible. But my father raised softness out of me with his belt, and I thought love spoken out loud would make you weak." Mabel covered her mouth. My mother shook her head. "No," Henry breathed into the recorder. "So I stayed on the porch. You looked back once. I saw your face change. I watched you learn not to expect me." The room blurred. Layered payoff 1. The mailbox. All my life, my mother checked mail twice a day, even when she knew nothing was coming. Henry went on. "I kept writing. Birthdays. Christmas. The day you won the spelling bee. The day your mother died and I didn't hold you. The day you left home and I told you to drive safe instead of, 'Don't leave me.'" My mother folded over the table. Layered payoff 2. Drive safe. It was the only phrase she said whenever I left. I had thought it was distance. It was inheritance. Then the tape changed. A soft humming came through. Off key. Tender. My mother's eyes lifted. "That song," she breathed. Henry sang quietly, barely above static. Not polished, not pretty, real. A lullaby. The same tune my mother hummed when she thought I was asleep with fever as a child. The only softness she had ever allowed to escape. Layered payoff 3. She hadn't invented tenderness. She had smuggled it. Then Henry said the words that broke her. "I loved you from the only distance I was allowed." But distance is not love's home, Sarah. Don't let my silence become your child's inheritance. My mother looked at me. For the first time, She didn't look away. The tape clicked off. No one moved. The silence that followed was different. Not empty. Full. Outside, the rain stopped. A thin line of orange evening light broke under the clouds and slipped through the kitchen window. It touched the recorder first, then my mother's wrapped wrist, then my hand resting on the table. Before sundown, the house would finally speak. And it had. But Uncle Ray wasn't done. His truck growled into the driveway 20 minutes later. Tires crushed wet leaves. The screen door slammed. He came in smelling like tobacco, cold air, and old anger. "I told you not to dig," he said. Mabel stepped between him and the table with a broom in her hand like a sword. "You take one more step, Raymond, and I'll sweep you into your brother's regrets." Ray ignored her. His eyes locked on the tapes. "Sarah, those are private." My mother flinched. There it was again, the old command, protect the silence. Ray reached for the recorder. I stood. No. One word. Small. Terrifying. He stared at me. "You don't know what family is." My mother's chair scraped. She rose slowly, wrist wrapped in a towel, eyes red, shoulders trembling. "Yes," she said. "He does." Ray turned. She looked smaller than him, older, hurt, but her voice held. "Family is not what we bury so nobody feels uncomfortable." Ray's face tightened. "Your father was a hard man." My mother swallowed. "No, he was a scared man, and you taught me to worship fear because you called it strength." The kitchen went silent again, but this time silence wasn't winning. I saw my mother as a child in a blue coat, waiting by a mailbox, waiting for words, waiting for a father who didn't know how to cross 12 feet of porch. Then she reached for my hand. Her fingers were cold, but she didn't pull away. "I'm sorry, Leo," she whispered. "I thought if I needed nothing, I could lose nothing." My throat burned. "You didn't lose me." Her face broke, and for the first time in my life, my mother hugged me first. She smelled like lavender soap, coffee, and grief finally leaving the body. Mabel sniffed loudly. Biscuit sneezed into the potatoes. Ray left without another word. That night, we didn't fix 30 years. People don't heal like movie endings. They heal like old houses, one board, one window, one room at a time. But we played another tape, then another. And when I left the kitchen, my mother said the phrase she always said, "Drive safe." Then she added something new. "I love you." Some people never get the explanation. Some carry absence like a family name. But sometimes, hidden under dust and floorboards, love waits for the living to become brave enough to hear it. 30 years of silence finally found somewhere to go, and before sundown, the house spoke. This time, we answered,